Today we will be talking about religion in Russia. Let's start off by examining the religious breakdown in Russia. A majority of the citizens are of Russian Orthodox faith. Russia adopted Christianity in 988 AD, and the Russian Orthodox Church formed a short time later after it split with the Catholic Church. In 1589, the church's headquarters were situated in Moscow, Russia's capital. Today, 72% of Russians are of the Russian Orthodox denomination. The next largest religion in Russia is Islam. It was introduced once in the 7th century and again in the 11th century. Muslims account for 5.7% of the population, and most of them are native Russians. Other sects of Christianity, like Catholicism and Protestantism, account for 1.8 and 0.7% respectively of the population. Buddhism, which was introduced in the 17th century, accounts for 0.6% of the population, and Judaism represents 0.3% of the population. Approximately 18.9% of Russians either practice other religions or are not associated with religion at all. There is no official religion in Russia. However, there are 4 religions that are legally recognized as being a part of Russian historical heritage. These are Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Buddhism. Freedom of religion is technically guaranteed by Russia's constitution, which was created in 1993. For the most part, the government does respect religious freedom. However, it does impose some restrictions on minority groups through supposed anti-extremism laws. From 1917 on to the early 1990s, religion was practically eliminated from Russia. This was due to the rise of the Soviet Union and communism. The communist regime began in 1917, and its leader, Vladimir Lenin, wanted a complete annihilation of religious institutions and ideas. The Soviets wanted atheism to be the ideology of the state, and went to extreme measures to do so. They spread anti-religion propaganda throughout the nation, such as this pamphlet which depicts Jehovah, God, and Allah being crushed under the hammer of the Soviet Union. They rounded up thousands of priests and other religious leaders, imprisoned them in gulags, and even executed them. Churches, temples, mosques, and synagogues were either seized by Soviet forces or completely destroyed. In the early 90s, the USSR collapsed, and the attempt for the annihilation of religion ended as well. Since then, Russia has been undergoing a religious revival, and more people are returning to their faiths. Russians may be becoming more and more religious, however they aren't returning to religious institutions. According to a recent study, only 7% of Russian Orthodox affiliates regularly attend church, and this percentage has been dropping ever since. The final question is religious conflict part of the Russian culture? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is yes. To some degree, religious conflict is a part of the culture in Russia. Throughout history, Russia has constantly persecuted certain religions, especially during the Soviet era. This persecution continues even today. Non-Russian Orthodox Christians, like Catholics and Protestants, are often subject to governmental restrictions. Recently, Protestants in Ukraine have been targeted by Russian Orthodox members. Jewish people have also been heavily targeted because of their religion. In Tsarist Russia, they were subjected to the harsh May laws, which were designed to restrict their freedoms. They were also subjected to pogroms, which were anti-Jewish riots. Ever since Russia annexed Crimea, its Muslim population has been put under high pressure. Muslims are being detained and interrogated, and mosques and other places of worship have been searched by Russian law enforcement, vandalized, or destroyed. In 2013, a ban on hijabs was announced and put into Russian law, but Chechnya, a Republic of Russia, issued a direct violation of this by ordering women to wear hijabs in all state buildings. Obviously, religious conflict is a very palpable and a very real problem in Russia. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video.